Okay, so I want to welcome everyone tonight. My name is Jesse Kern, Keller Williams Legacy Group. This is a seller seminar. Tonight, the goal is to educate about what you as a seller can do to most prepare your property to get top dollar in today's market. Today is March 8th, 2022, so I'm going to talk about some very specific things to the current present day market, and then of course there'll be some things that are general and will be useful no matter what the market is. And I have some guests here. I will introduce them before they come up. Kathy Smith with Dream Scheme Staging, Stan Hurst with All Points Home Inspections, and Barb Wasmansky with Compass Mortgage. So right now, we're entering into our spring market. Kind of, to be honest, for the last almost 8 years since I've been selling real estate, we've never really not had a spring market because there's always been low inventory. It's just to what degree is the market, what's the zenith of it? Last year in 2021, it was the most extreme spring market I've ever experienced in my years, where it was like, well, I was in competition with 31 other offers at one point on a house in Grimes Easter weekend last year, and we wrote $25,000 over and we did not win the bid.
Oh.
Yeah. So, and my client was VA, which is a government-backed loan that has a higher scope of work for the appraisals. And those kinds of loans were having a hard time competing with cash or conventional with lower appraisal scopes of work. Not that there's no scope of work, but the vets are wanting, the VA is wanting to protect the vets, so they have higher standards of the condition of the property. And Barb can talk more about that when it comes time for her portion of the presentation. So one thing that I like to focus on and that I want to talk about, it's my unique value proposition, and that's pricing strategy. So I have some handouts here. It's also here on the screen, kind of hard to see. And for the recording, there will be a link where you can have access to these.
I'll pass those out for you.
All right, thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Yes. So the first item here is what sells a property. There's 4 things that sell a property. Location. When my mom got into real estate, I was in high school, she's like, there's 3 things that sells a property. Do you know what they are? I was like, I don't know. And she's like, location, location, location. So yes, that is true. And so location, either you've got a great one, you can't really change it without a lot of work. I do know a man that his business is he moves homes. 2 stories are harder to move because you have electric lines to maneuver around. So location. Marketing, if I may say so, I think I have a pretty good marketing plan with door knocking and some other things that I do to get property out, in addition to 500 websites that Keller Williams puts properties out. But I'm not going to talk about marketing so much. I'll do that at the kitchen table when you have me over to list your house, right? All right, and then of the 4 things, the third one is condition. Now, this can be improved. When Stan comes up to speak, he's going to address this. I'm starting to recommend to sellers to have some kind of pre-inspection, or at least some kind of consultation with an inspector like Stan, in order to get out ahead of what a buyer might ask for that could bomb a deal. Because buyers are looking for certain things, and if there's safety and code issues, we would be wise to address those up front. And then the last one is price. And I like to say price and condition are married. If your price doesn't match your condition, you're not going to get any offers. Because you can, well, even in a seller's market, you can overprice a home. So the way I like to look at it, 80% of selling a property is price. And this chart here will demonstrate what I'm talking about. So, pricing strategy diagram. So out of the market, this is where we're getting no showings. So if we go 10 showings and no offers, well, that's actually no man's land. So if we go 2 weeks with no showings, if we're out of the market with no showings, buyers are saying that we're overpriced. They're not even asking to look at the house, okay? no man's land. This is where we might have a few showings. Realtors are saying that we are overpriced, and realtors are using your house as a comparison to sell other properties. Because if a buyer, now not so much in this market where it's so fast, and if you're not, if there's already 5 offers on the house by the time you look at it, it's obviously there's demand there for that. But if you're getting a few showings and it's not selling, then it's another conversation around price in relationship to the condition. Because ideally, if we have 10 showings, should equal 1 offer, okay? So if we go 10 showings and we don't get an offer, what are we going to be talking about when I call you?
Price reduction.
Right. Yes. A price improvement, that doesn't mean up. That means we're going down. So that's no man's land here on this little chart. And then in the market. So we know we're in the market if we should receive, like I just said, 1 offer for every 10 showings. The sweet spot would be 10 showings and 1 offer in the first week. Now, in our current super hot sellers market where there's low inventory, because there's such little inventory and the demand is high, properties are selling quickly. However, it also depends on the niche, and I'm going to look at the different niches tonight based upon your requests, because I've seen homes in the city of Des Moines that are sitting on the market and taking price reductions while new construction in the suburbs is going gangbusters. So it really depends, it's all supply and demand. Yes. Kathy's like, that's why staging is so important. So in review here, we've got out of the market, no showings. We go 2 weeks with no showings. In this hot sellers market, if we go like 1 week with no showings, we're like, whoa, we got to do something about that. Or if we're in no man's land, we're getting a showing here or there, no one's really biting or writing us offers. If we go those 10 showings and no offers, then we've got to make a price reduction. And if we're in the market, we know that we're getting 1 offer for every 10 showings. So if we get I heard a story recently from one of my coaches on a group coaching call. She had 70 showings, and they didn't, and she admitted her seller was not really wanting to be flexible on his price, and she was just like, what is this conversation going to be about, Mr. Seller? He said price, and how long do you want to endure all this kind of traffic through your house with no offers? Let's just get real and let's adjust our price. And they did, and then it sold. Okay, so any questions about this diagram? No? Okay.
No.
Yes.
You certainly lined it up nicely.
All right, well, thank you. So this is based on National Association of Realtors data. I mean, it shows that if we go and some of this is older, buyer's market kind of data, 2 weeks no showings or 10 showings and no offers. With the way it's been recently with the hot sellers market, it's really 10 showings, we should get 1 offer, and if we don't, we need to either adjust the price, which is ideally what we would do, or if there is a condition improvement we can make, that potentially might make up the difference. But really, it basically boils down to price, because 80% of selling a property is price, the other 20% is condition, and the staging will enhance and bring out the condition and help people visualize how to use the space. Okay, so I have a very special guest here with us tonight. No one knows that this guest is here, but a lot of my clients ask about this guest and want me to consult it. It's wrapped in this bag. It's not the best presentation, but you got to carry a baby in a bassinet, right? So a lot of times people ask me, what's the market going to do, Jesse? What's it going to be like next year or in a few months? I'm like, let me consult my crystal ball. But guess what? Look right there. It's cracked. So when I cracked it, I was like, I can't see the future as clearly as I used to could. I'm so sorry. When I was a kid in the 80s, every day was sunny, and I would have told you it's all going to be awesome. And then, we grow up and we live life. So anyway, but yeah. So this is Mr. Crystal Ball. He's going to sit right back here. So we never know the future. Since I've been advertising I was going to do this event, Russia has invaded Ukraine. We had a pandemic 2 years ago. The last time I did this seminar live was March 10th, 2020, and then that was a Tuesday, and the next Sunday, President Trump was like, yeah, governors, do what you need to do to, what you think to protect the people of your states. And the surprise was, what happened in the pandemic? Did the housing market crash? No, it actually went gangbusters. Interest rates were low, people decided to buy because they were set in their houses and they got tired of their environment and they wanted to change. But a lot of it was the interest rates were historically low in the twos, right, Barb? Yeah. So
they were low, super low.
Yeah, they were super low.
They still are actually, historically they are still
Yes,
historically low.
like 4.25 is historically low.
We've just gotten conditioned to
Yep.
almost zero, yeah.
Yep. And last year this time it was 2.75 or whatever it was. So my point is, we never know what the market's going to do. What we do know, there's patterns. Anywhere between 10 to 18 years it will cycle. We had our crash in 08, 10, 9, 10, depending on different parts of the country. And we've really been coming up since 2013. This is 2020, so we've had 9 years of an upward progression. And when you look at the data year over year for the last 40 years that they've really been tracking it, with the inflation we're experiencing this year, that puts us right back on market for a 4%, right back on track for a 4% increase year over year for the national average. In 2020, the average price came up 9%. Gary Keller, who's the head of Keller Williams Realty, he's projecting a 22% increase this year. And with that accelerated appreciation, what's the only way you think that the government and the banking system can regulate or prevent that?
Wow.
A rate increase. So Gary Keller's projection is that we're going to have 6% interest rates by the end of 2023. And we may even be at 5 by the end of 2022. So when rates come up, buying power goes down. And generally speaking, rates are down, prices go up, and vice versa. Okay, so like I said, I cracked my crystal ball. I'm expecting prices are still going to be going up. However, since we're seeing or feeling the inflation right now at the gas pump and the grocery store, that may affect some people's willingness to purchase that otherwise might have done so. I saw a meme on Instagram. I like to work out, and this bodybuilder I follow, he had a story. It said, I don't usually brag about going to expensive places, but I just got to tell you, I went to the gas station today. I was like, yeah, I went to Hy-Vee last night just to pick up a few things. $50 later, I'm like, what did I buy? Yeah, the kombucha was on sale and I bought a big one, but I'm like, my box of like protein bars are like $10. I'm like, okay. Anyway, I mean,
go online to get your groceries and they had it all ready for you, so you don't go in and get all those extras.
Oh, you're true.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I did that tonight with Office Depot. I bought some stuff and just picked it up. So anyway, so I wanted to show you just a few niche price points or some data. One of the values that I see that I can offer as a realtor is hyperlocal data. So what I brought up here is West Des Moines, Polk County, 50266 single family. So obviously West Des Moines and Polk and Dallas counties, and it's in 50266 and 50265. So this is more specific. So this is like on the border between Polk and Dallas, but it's in Polk, it's West Des Moines schools because the Dallas County part of the West Des Moines is Waukee schools. So there's these different niches. So for at least the example here, our absorption pricing index. Absorption pricing is the theory that how long will it take the market to absorb the current inventory in the event no more inventory came on the market. So right now in West Des Moines, Polk County 50266, there's 4 active properties. In the past 30 days, 8 properties went pending, which means they accepted an offer, and 2 sold, which means they closed. In the last 30 days, none of them expired, none of them withdrew their listing. Okay, so I mean, that's not surprising that there would be no expired listings with this market right now. So with 8 pendings and 4 actives, do the math, 4 divided by 8, so it's going to take half a month for the market at this rate to absorb those 4 active listings. So half a month's worth of inventory based on the pendings, that's a seller's market. If there's 0, 1, 2, or 3 months of inventory, that's a seller's market. Half a month is a really hot seller's market. 4 or 5 months of inventory, that's a balanced market. 6, 7, 8 months of inventory, that is a buyer's market. Now, you can see a buyer's market in your luxury, high-end, at the same time while you have a seller's market on your average price point. Just because, I mean, move up buyers, it's like the inventory on the low end has to sell so those buyers can move up, and then finally the luxury inventory will start to sell. So it sits longer on the market. Does that make sense? Okay. So in this little niche, 34 average days on market for the solds. These pending properties average 10 days on market. The average price per square foot for all of these properties is $228.83. Now, I'm not a huge fan of using price per square foot, especially as the sole indicator of how to price a property, because it assumes everything in the property is the same when that's not the case. Because people will remodel and renovate their properties and upgrade them, or builders will, have clients put higher end material in a new home than sometimes the next door neighbor's house. But it can be an indicator to help us gauge where we're at. So houses on average are selling in this current seller's market at 103% of list price or more, with an average days on market of 34 days. So in this case, those 2 solds, one of them sold 102% of list price, the other sold at 104% of list price. Now that's very, it's highly targeted. And then, like I've mentioned already, 2 weeks, no showings equals a price adjustment. 10 showings, no offers is a price adjustment. A normal price reduction is $5,000 to $10,000. A drastic one is $15,000. If you want to hit the next bracket of buyers, you got to make a price reduction of 5 to 7%, which, that can be a significant amount of money to come down to the next bracket if you're overpriced. Because the thing is, if you overprice it, even in a seller's market, you're going to be chasing down, and that doesn't bode well for a seller, because then people think, what's wrong with that house? Why is it sitting on the market for so long? When if you just price it right, and then right now, with the market going up, you can actually price it maybe a little high, reasonably so, and then the market will catch up. I had that happen last year with property in Valley Junction. I was like, oh my gosh, this is so overpriced. Do I really want my sign in the yard? And it was on a busy street, on 8th Street, and like, oh my gosh. I know there's some in that neighborhood that, used to be a builder I worked for, and I decided to part ways with him, so I can just imagine, like, okay, when he drives by and sees mine, he's probably like, Jesse, blah, 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 doesn't know how to price up a house. Well, we were on the market long enough where the market caught up to our price and it sold at that price. I was like, okay, well, that can happen too.
Yeah.
All right, any questions about this? Does anyone want me to run any numbers on your niche of where you live and your zip code, or? Okay, well,
maybe a bit later.
Okay.
Conversation.
Yeah, definitely. I'm happy to do that. And again, this is single family. The condo market and townhome market, that's going to be a little bit different. That's a different asset class. They don't sell quite as fast, but they're still appreciating in value. All right, so looking at my notes here, offer scenarios just real quick. And this, if you're a buyer here tonight, or a lot of times you as a seller, you are a buyer, because where are you going to go? You got to move somewhere. So a lot of offer scenarios right now we're seeing, like I said here, these properties sold at 103% of their list price. So if they were in a multiple offer situation, that drives up price much like an auction. Terms, what we're seeing, I've seen sellers get leasebacks where they go ahead and close and they rent the property back from the new owner because the market is such in a seller's favor, they can do that, and a buyer will basically arrange their life to make that happen. I had that last year where I was representing a buyer. He was in a living situation he could stay in while the seller's house finished being built, and the sellers rented that house back from him at his mortgage rate, so it was more than what they were used to paying. But you know, let's be real here, the buyer's not going to rent the house back to you at a loss. We're seeing concessions where sellers aren't giving any concessions. Barb, I've known for years, she taught me how to go in and ask for sellers to pay closing costs for buyers. We're not seeing that happen a lot this time of year. Now, it did happen in the fall and the winter when the market slowed down. It was still a seller's market, but it was such that, you know, there weren't multiple offers and sellers were willing to pay some concessions to help buyers get into the house. Buyers are paying for their own home warranties because they want to have the home warranty in case, you know, mechanicals or something goes out. Here's a little trick that I've used a couple times. Barb yells at me if I don't talk to her about it first, and it does require that the buyer have cash. Because let's be real, when a seller gets an offer, they're going to look at that bottom line. How much is it going to net me that I'm going to walk away with, right? I mean, come on. I've had buyers, I've been a listing agent where the buyer wrote a letter about, we're pregnant, we're going to raise our kids here. You know what the lady of the house said? I don't care about that. Which one makes me the most?
Yeah.
I was like, okay. So if you're afraid, I used this with a client last year because they were just all this accelerated appreciation. They were afraid, am I overpaying for the house? I said, well, here's an alternative where if you don't want to go over price, we can offer to pay the seller's prorated taxes. Or you can offer to pay for all or portion of the sales commission that they're paying the realtor. You know, so it's like, because those are the two biggest fees when it comes to selling a house, is the brokerage commission to market and sell and, you know, manage the transaction. Or in the state of Iowa, because taxes are paid in arrears, the seller has to pay sometimes 12 to 14 months worth of taxes when they move. And that can be a nice chunk of change that if a buyer came in and said, hey, we'll handle that, that makes your offer more attractive because even though you're not going up in price, you are reducing their costs and saving the seller money. All right, inspections. A lot of buyers are waiving inspections, or at least they're saying up front, we're not going to ask for any repairs. The only time I would say don't inspect is if you yourself personally are a contractor with the skills to walk in during your showing and evaluate your property. Otherwise, I recommend professional inspections because you got to address safety issues. Inspectors can't speak to code so much, but it's best if a property is up to code, and major condition items. Any questions about any of that? I know I went through that kind of quick. Okay. So now we're going to shift into that property preparation portion, and Kathy's going to talk about staging, because what I am offering, for those of you in attendance and that see this video, that I will pay her $150 consultation fee for her to come in, consult with you, and to make your property, your house, in the best presentation possible to get you the top dollar in this market.
Hey there, my name is Kathy Smith. I am the business owner of Dream Schemes Home Staging and Styling. I was certified in 2008 to become a stager. And I love the business, and I believe that it is the best thing you could possibly do to get your home sold and sold fast. So I have a little presentation for you here, and some are just explanations of what home staging is, preparing the home for the market by maximizing its potential and minimize its flaws. So a lot of times when you walk into an empty home, especially an older home, you will see all the cracks in the wall and the dings and maybe a mark on the hardwood floor that you don't really care for. But if the home is staged and has furnishings in it, you just don't see those things anymore. It's kind of this distraction from all those. So staging the home is the most cost-effective way to, as a market tool for the market right now. Okay. Of course, an awesome realtor who works hard for their seller is also crucial. So home staging will sell the home in record time and the highest possible market value. The last statistic shows that a staged home sells 87% faster and for 6 to 20% more money. So staging pays off and adds so much more value and equity to the home. That's some big numbers there, folks.
Yeah, like what's 6% of $200,000 house? That's like $12,000.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, next, sir. So as far as the consultation goes, I will do a walkthrough with the homeowner. And the homeowner will take notes, and we will go through each room, and I will make some suggestions as we do walk. And then also, I will leave her with the notes that she has taken, and she will use that as a DIY report to follow as she prepares the home for the market. A lot of times I also do, instead of doing the report, I'll just go in and I'll help the homeowner, with 2 or 3 hours. We can just pull stuff and get working on it ahead of time. And also I can always come back to help with as much or as little as needed with the preparations of your home. I need a water. Okay, so this is basically a consultation guiding home. Of course, when you see these big TVs and you see the toys, they're just kind of like, well, what are you supposed to do? I can't get rid of that TV, and I can't, the toys have got to be here. I've got kids, and it's like, well, they don't have to be here while you're showing the home. You could get a little tub full of toys and, just have that somewhere that you can get out and use. The TV could go, I was wanting him to put it on the other wall because this is the longest wall for the furniture, because this stuck out a little bit into the entryway. Well, he couldn't because he didn't have a cord that was on that side of the wall. And so I told him, well, you can go underneath into the basement and bring the cord over here, or you could bring that TV downstairs to the basement family room area, and you'll have so much more space in here. So with me just walking through the home with them and telling them what they need to be doing and taking care of, they turned it right side up with all of my recommendations, and they didn't really spend much money at all, maybe for a couple throw pillows. So this is the before picture, and that's the after picture. So simplified completely. This is the first shot when you walk into the home of what you're going to see, which presents the home much nicer. You can flip it. So this was a sunroom that they had, and not really used as one. They just kind of put their old furniture in that space just because it was theirs and they had it, which is fine for living. So I had her bring one of the couch downstairs and the coffee table, and told her to bring up a little cute chair that she had down in the basement to add to it, and I can't even believe how much better it turned out. And again, all on what they did for themselves.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's just really just showing the home as best you can.
Same angle.
It is, but I think maybe it was further. I should have been further back from the door. Okay. So this was a home that I did a consultation with. They had a lot of cool stuff in the home, great artwork and a lot of things to work with. However, just bleak. So with walking through the home, I was able to tell them, okay, well, you don't really need this couch in the attic, you know, it's super cute, bring it down and add it with those chairs, and, you know, I'll bring some other pieces in as needed. And they did a great job. Next, please.
Wow.
Oh, well, that's nice.
Yeah, and so this is all their stuff. And this is the first room that you walk into. And so you have got to grab people right off the bat. They say that somebody knows they want to buy the home within like the first 8 seconds they're in. And you got to believe that too. And if there's something they see right away, you know, whether it's a bad paint palette or, you know, a bunch of clutter, they don't even want to walk in it. You know, people used to be able to see through all that stuff. And anymore, they want to walk in and be move-in ready when they're buying a home. And they need to see also how the room is set up. So once they get in, they know, you know, how that would work maybe for themselves with their furniture.
And you should never have a piano on an outside wall. It's bad for tuning.
Yeah. Well, and you know what happened with these folks? They had it sold right away after we did this. Didn't sell prior to doing this. It was on the market for quite a while. There was a realtor that they were working with that said, oh, no, it'll sell. It'll be just fine. You know, let's just put it on the market, which a lot of realtors are really super crazy about getting it listed right away. And in my mind, they're not doing, and with all due respect, they're not doing their sellers a favor by just popping it right on the market. I mean, it didn't take long for us to, they switched realtors, and so then with us, you know, reorganizing the home and staging it with a better setup, it sold right away. And then what happened is the lady that bought it lost her job, and she had to pull out of the contract. And it was after they had moved everything out. So then the new realtor had me come in and stage it as a vacant. So once I did that, you know, you don't do the whole house. You know, the living room, maybe the family room, kitchen, dining room maybe. And then I didn't even do a master. We didn't think that we needed that. And it sold immediately as well, thank goodness, because they had a lot riding on it with having 2 properties because they'd already moved. Right. So I was so happy that they had a realtor to guide them, you know, with that.
Well, last year I listed a house. You walked in and had this big couch that like totally shrunk the size of the
Yes.
room. And I finally got them like, take that downstairs. We did that. We had like 2-3 offers that the next 2 days.
Yeah. And I think realtors need to, you know, beef up their talk a little bit on what they're asking their sellers to do. And I think that it needs to be a little more guided than it has been in the past. And a lot of sellers are just like, I'm not going to do anything, and there's nothing wrong with my home, and yada, yada, yada. But then afterwards, they're like, oh my gosh.
Make no mistake, you're the bad guy.
Yes, I know. And I'm easy, you know, I don't like completely strip them of their home, you know. I take some time, you know, to help them, you know, release themselves from this being their home, and it's now a home on the market. Okay, so with enhancements, you know, I had this all ready to go from one to the next, and it was like a, what's it called?
Seamless.
Excuse me for just one moment. Like this. I wonder, no. Anyway, it didn't probably follow through.
Okay.
So with an enhancement, once the homeowner has worked through the home and taken care of everything they needed to take care of from the list that we've done before, they may need a few pieces to add, you know, pops of color or you know, emotional appeal to the home. So in that case, my company could come in with affordable rental pieces to add to the emotional appeal of the home. And they're not very expensive, and you know, I don't slather the home up. It's just a few pieces, you know, to help with the focal points. So this home was an enhancement, bachelor pad. You know, the furniture's dated, you know, which obviously we're not going to get rid of the furniture. He had some nice pieces, but just wasn't styled properly for a staged home. So this was a fun job to work at. So, you know, when you have a dated living room set, you don't necessarily need to get new furniture. It's just all about, you know, the pillows and the throws and, you know, everything else that you can do to just add a little bit of a new style.
Is that the same furniture?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. Well, I moved that one here and this one here.
Oh, okay.
And the shelves really turned out great. You know, he just had a few pieces, which were great pieces. I just wanted to add a few things together for him.
Did you?
You painted the shelf.
Okay.
Did I what?
They painted the shelf.
Painted the shelves?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, go back. It's not.
Was there
You know, it's bad lighting. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
were those cardboards on that bottom shelf underneath?
That's a cabinet.
The
And it looks like, oh, he has some boxes
Oh, yeah,
set
the
up
boxes
there.
Okay,
Yeah.
I took the boxes out.
So, you know, this was his piece here, which I loved. I wish I would have had it. You know, it just was set up the proper way to make the room look as, you know, best as possible,
great.
space-wise. So this was his master. This was his master bedroom, and and obviously, you know, people are going to get some comic relief out of this. He was a bachelor. Didn't care much about the bed being on the floor. So the realtor knew I needed to come in and help him out. Now, a lot of realtors will not add bedding, or excuse me, stagers bring in bedding or towels or anything in an occupied home. You know, I do if I know I can have it cleaned. I also tell them, you know, if anything is soiled or ripped or damaged or missing, that they're responsible for replacement value. So, and then also, you know, I told him just fold the, you know, the comforter down and then, you know, sleep with that. And he did a really good job of taking care of all that. Next.
Wow.
So obviously we had to pull the bed up a little bit off the floor, and headboard. Those were his nightstands, bedding, pillows. It turned out nicely.
Definitely.
I mean, he could not have showed the
What
home.
was that thing on the side there? What was that? Like, looks like a.
Oh, I think it's a dog bed. And he also had a gate on the bedroom door I told him he needed to take down for a short time.
Wow. Cool.
So with a vacant staging, you know, we'll turn an empty house into a warm, welcoming home. A staged home will help buyers visualize themselves living in the home, as well as show the functionality and furniture placement within the home, excuse me. So I do work with a lot of rehabbers, and so this was a really cool property inside and out, you know, all new finishes, flooring, appliances. It was really, really narrow. So a lot of people, if they were to see this space without the furnishings in that, they would have thought that the home's too small, they never are ever going to be able to fit their furniture in there, that you just can't visualize how you could do that. So I brought furniture in specifically for the space. There was no way, you know, I could have done it without this set probably. Worked out so nicely that the buyers wanted to buy the furniture as well.
Yeah, I got that last night at the house I showed.
Yeah, and you know, that happens a lot. I had like 4 houses in a row where the people wanted to buy everything, and they couldn't believe that I didn't want to sell, because they're like, well, then you just won't have to pack anything up. And it's like, oh, and then who's going to go shopping and find all those one-of-a-kind pieces that I've staged your home with, you know? So, of course, I didn't sell my end tables or my art, just the furniture. Next, please. This is the master bedroom. There is a bigger bedroom in the basement that they sure could probably bring their bedroom down to, which allowed much more space. But when you see a room like this, you're thinking, no way, you know. And homes without furnishings in, they make the room look much smaller. So, next. So it is still small, but it shows that they can fit a king bed in there and a dresser, 2 nightstands.
Wow.
And of course the emotional appeal adds to, like, oh my God, this bedroom is so small. You know, they're going to see it, but they also are.
So it's that same like long house.
Yeah. Uh-huh. So this home was a beautiful property. I think it was west of Grimes.
Hashtag 80s.
So they had moved everything out. Just was kind of not knowing what to do. Of course, the realtor knew that they needed Kathy Smith to come in and doll it up a little bit.
You know,
So I had the cornice board taken down, and then I also took the shades off of the lighting fixture, which you can buy now, and it's pretty popular without those shades. So then with an enhancement, I brought in furniture. No, this is no, this is an enhancement. So I brought in some furniture for this space. Next. This is a room that's off the kitchen and next to the dining room. And so people are like, well, I wonder what this space is. It's got a fireplace and all that. So I figured that we really needed to let people know what this space was for. So just set it up with just a small little space, you know, shows them that they can watch TV, you know, from here, be next to the kitchen. Little high top table as well that they could also eat at if they didn't want to get into the dining room space. So living in the home is much different than selling your home, as we know. So this was their lower level. Of course, they had kids. Of course, they exercised. They had a bar. They had all of their sports memorabilia there. And so this house transformed beautifully. Just mostly got rid of a lot of the things that were cluttering up the room and the space, just so you could show what it should be showing as. Their furniture, a lot of that's their table, that's their bar stools. You know, I just brought in pillows and art. This is another one that needed my help, and I apologize for the dark picture, it doesn't show it, but this was a man that lived there, and he was super nice. He didn't think he needed staging, he didn't think he needed to paint anything, and so I ended up getting it staged, and I ended up having him repaint the whole house, and the realtor was just floored because he did not think he was going to want to do that. And it turned out beautifully, and it sold like the next day. He was so happy. And again, his furniture, his tables, I just brought in some pillows, rearranged the placement setting. Another very well lived in home. You know, you get these pieces and you just don't know what to do with them, and before you know it, they're just spread throughout the home. You know, which is fine for the homeowner, for sure. This is, you know, how they live. They had all their photos of their family and whatnot. So furniture was a little dated. So I brought in some new pieces, pillows, lighting, thinned everything down a little bit. Yeah. Oops, I think you went the other way. This is a dining room. And it was a beautiful home. And you know what? This was a divorced man with his kids, and he was just trying to make this home fun for the kids, and he didn't care that he had a ping pong table in his dining room. He had other places to eat as well. But obviously when you show a home, you can't show this. He had the table and chairs. He had that shelf upstairs in a bedroom, and he got new lighting. I brought in a rug and some decor, and it just, you know, worked beautifully. So the best update to the home is a fresh coat of paint, very reasonably priced as well. This home was obviously dated, and I don't know if you can tell real well, but the finishes are kind of like that almond pinky finish. And so when they had it painted pink, it really enhanced all this as well. So I needed to try to update this bathroom master as best I can. So we repainted the bathroom. And I think that it just really updated it a little bit, and it didn't make the dated finishes stand out so much. Unique spaces need to be defined, because sometimes these spaces, people look at it and they're like, well, what's this room supposed to be? This was a darling little room, short room, upstairs in one of the rehab properties that I worked on. And it, you know, couldn't be a closet. There was nothing there for a closet. Couldn't be a full-size bedroom because it was so short. So this is what I did. I brought in a little toddler bed and decorated the space. And it was just so cute. Did it have to be staged like that? Maybe not. It could have been just a toy room, but this is what I thought was best. Another space, it was just going down to the basement. It was like up kind of high, and then this was the ledge that was above the wall. And so I just, put a little playroom in there, for a little kid to get in there and be swept away with their imagination and painting and all this. And, another thing this space could have been for was just, where you house your dog cage, or anything like that as well, or just storage. But obviously we didn't want to show it that way. So this is my all-time favorite selling feature, of course, in a bachelor pad. This was his kitchen pantry, and he filled it up with his shoes. Which, you know what, it worked for him. This is the difference of living and selling. Fillet of soul, yes. And
Not going anywhere.
I think it's the last one.
Oh, okay.
So, and right now, with the market being so hot, people ask me, do we really even need to sell, stage our home to get this house sold? And in my mind, yes. I mean, because first of all, the homeowners cannot look at their home objectively. The whole house is very taste specific to the colors they've painted, the furniture, the art, the trinkets, and you really need to neutralize that space so it will allow the masses to see the home, and it will just bring in more potential buyers. So that, and then also just the amount of, the cost or, I just turned that, I'm so sorry. Where'd my little paper go? Oh, there you go. So you use stage to neutralize, to depersonalize. Photos of the home will bring so much more appeal, once the home is staged. And that's really where people start. They look at the photos, the listings, and they decide which homes they want to look at. And just set the home up, to bring in more buyers. So that's one thing I like to talk about. Cost, I don't believe that the cost is anything that should be seen as an expense. I think it needs to be seen as an investment, because once you do stage the home, you're going to bring that much more value to the home, and you're going to sell it much quicker. I hope it's not Scott looking for me. Anyway, I just want to say that even though I would love to help you with your home staging, if you do have a home stager, fine. It's just important to have your home staged, because you will just get much more value for your home, and you will sell your home much faster. I mean, who loves showings, especially when you have kids and all that stuff. So thank you so much. Appreciate you all for being here today. And my hopes are that I can work with you shortly here. And please keep in mind, Jesse's here to help out with part of the consultation, so we can get you up and running. Got to put your best foot forward.
So this is Stan Hurst with All Points Home Inspections. He's been inspecting homes since 2008. He's done a lot of inspections for my buyers over the years and some sellers, and he's going to talk about what you as a seller can look for proactively when you put your house on the market.
Thank you. Good evening. Again, as Jesse said, my name is Stan Hurst. I'm with All Points Home Inspections. I started my company in 2008. I am an ASHI certified home inspector. I also do radon testing and sewer scope inspections. So tonight is want to give you a little bit of insight on why it would be beneficial to have a pre-inspection, and some of the things that to look at or concerns that will come up are like the roof. How many layers of shingles are on the roof? Is there proper venting on it? Both of those things reduce the life expectancy of your shingles, and you would want to know that because it would come up on a regular home inspection as you're trying to sell that. So you don't want to be shocked or surprised by anything like that. Are your gutters flowing properly, the water flowing out properly, are they sloped properly? Do you have downspout extensions, so that water is flowing away from the foundation and not pooling up around that? Those are all important things to keep that water away from that foundation. And then as we go around the home a little bit, you know, we're looking at the decks. Is the ledger board attached to the house properly? Is there flashing on that ledger board? Are there balusters far enough apart on your hand railing? Is the deck in good condition? If there's stairs on the leading to the deck, and there's 3 or more steps, you have to have a handrail on it. A lot of times we see that there isn't, even in some new construction. Then we, you know, moving around, is your air conditioner level? Is the coils, are they dirty? So, you know, those things like that, it's all filtering in to the home. And then as we work inside the home, there's many things to look at. The number one item is electrical. There are older panels out there that's like a Federal Pacific stab lock panel or a push button panel. Those panels just need to be updated. That's just the way it is in today's code. Most houses have 100 amp service coming in, and today that's not enough service for all the electronics that you have today with your big screen TVs, your computers, and then, you know, new appliances. So even if it's an older home and you have older appliances now, once you start updating those appliances, that's not enough circuit to maintain that power to pull from that home. Ground fault circuit interrupters, are they present at the sinks in the bathroom and in the kitchens? They need to be within 6 feet of any water source, a GFI, ground fault circuit interrupter. So electrical is probably the next biggest thing on that. You know, water heater, is the relief valve extension on properly? It should be no more than 6 inches from the floor. You know, and then assessing the furnace and the water heater, you know, looking at any structural issues down there as far as foundation. Are the walls bowing? Are there cracks in it, horizontal or vertical cracks, step cracks? So all those things are things that, you know, are important to see if you need repaired ahead of time, as opposed to having that shock afterwards and things that you really didn't know, even though you've lived there for 10, 15, 20 years. You get comfortable with that home, and out of sight, out of mind, kind of, you see it every day and you just kind of walk by it. So good things to point out, to be aware of. A couple things I kind of missed on the exterior would be like your garage door. Does it reverse properly? If your car is under it, or, you know, heaven forbid, a child or something. Are the I-beam sensors on the garage door track, and are they the proper height off the floor? They should be no more than 6 inches off the floor. Is the belt or chain on the motor in good condition? So all those things, you know, we should be looking at. Are the cables, are they rusting, fraying on the overhead door, the garage overhead door? So all critical issues to be looking out for. So main things people are looking at are roofs and electrical, probably the two main things when we're assessing a property. So any questions?
So the roof and electrical are the main things that buyers that you see are most concerned about?
Typically that's what the concerns are. Most everything else is kind of cosmetic in a way to them, and they're not really major issues.
Okay.
Structural issues, you know, looking in the attic, make sure you've got proper ventilation, make sure you've got enough attic insulation. In Iowa, an R38 value is minimum recommendation. So depends on what type you have, depends on how thick your insulation should be. Make sure the exhaust vents from the bathrooms are venting to the exterior. Otherwise, all that moisture coming out of the bathrooms can create condensation and mold into the attic and stick to the trusses and the roof sheathing. And there's only one way to get rid of mold, and that's to eliminate it. You can't hide it with paint or anything like that. Make sure the dryer vent is venting to the outside and not leaking into the attic. You know, lint's very combustible. Been into attics before and just covered with lint, and it looks like insulation, but once looking at it a little deeper, you find out it's lint, and so that needs to be remedied. Those pipes need to be vented properly. So, okay, good question. Anything else?
Can you advise on code issues, or how do you handle that?
Well, technically, we should be aware of most code issues, but we're not really supposed to be referring to them as home inspectors due to, like, the electrical code. It changes every 3 years. So in 2020, the new codes came out. Well, they're just getting up to that code right now in 2022. So as you can see, by next year in 2023, these codes are going to be outdated, although they won't catch up to 23 codes for another year or two after that. So, and that's just one aspect of it. You know, it's good that if we do know some of them, because I feel like some of the contractors, some of their help don't know some of the codes. Just like on the I-beam sensors, you know, when installed even in new construction, they could be 2 feet off the ground, and that's just not right. Or when a plumber is installing a water heater and doesn't put that relief valve extension the proper distance from the floor, that's a potential safety issue. Not a lot, but often your washer and dryer is right there by that water heater, and if that relief valve would decide to go off, then that hot water spray is going to spray out all over and scald someone, and that's just not what, you know, we should have done. So, good question.
Okay.
All right, well, thank you for your time. If you have any questions, you can always call me at 515-360-2256. I always ask people, I say, so what's the worst question? The worst question you can ask, the one you don't ask. Thank you.
Yeah.